Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. This open meeting of the Cannabis Advisory Committee is being conducted pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Cannabis Advisory Committee is meeting by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you may broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided, members of the public, are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along the posted agenda unless I, acting as the chair, notes otherwise. We're going to turn to the first item on our agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to accurately ensure that meeting minutes are done. I, as a chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. As they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to clearly speak in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any responses, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Anything with public comment after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public who have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their name and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote is taken. And this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So let me move on from there and just permit me to confirm that all members and persons attending are present and can hear me. I feel like after doing that script, I should run through the side effects of what just occurred may cause. Anyways, so members, when I call your name, please just respond in the affirmative. Abby D. Molina.
Here.
Thank you. Don Holgate.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Joe Plandowski.
Here.
Barry Rector, I better be here. And members of the public at this point, Dan Berger.
Present.
All right. Taylor Breeden.
Here.
And Nicole Campbell. Okay, welcome everyone. So let's get started. First of all, I want to take a moment to welcome Dawn Hill-Holgate as the representative from the Select Board. Dawn, I am personally, I am so thrilled to have you on board. I really,
Good. I mean, I do need to tell you now that I might have to cut out a little bit early, depending on how long this goes, because I'm away.
That's okay. I understand. Believe me, I've got another person who's away.
But thank you.
So no, I get it. You basically, as long as you've helped establish the quorum, we're good to go for most of
Okay.
it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm thrilled to have you on board. You're a wonderful participant from what I've seen in the past. You're actively engaged, and I am just delighted to have you here. So we're going to approve the agenda at this point, which you have in front of you. I'll take a motion to approve that agenda by Mr. Plandowski. Someone want to second that?
Second.
All right. And it was made by Dawn, seconded. Let me do the roll call. Abby?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And the chair, Barry, votes aye for the agenda as well. We don't have any draft minutes. Let me turn over to public comment. You'll notice I will go a little bit fast. with things, because I know everyone's time is valuable. So slow me down if I start getting too far out of control with my speed here. Anyone in the comment anyone in the public would like to make any comments before we get started? Thank you for all showing up, by the way. Dan, did you have anything, or you just hand wave?
I am waving hello to everybody, and hello, Dawn. It's nice to have you here. I guess I'll keep my comments brief. I just want to keep volunteering myself, sort of as a social equity participant and as a license holder in the state to help provide any guidance or insight that through this process of the proposal that we voted on at the last meeting that I brought through. I also did forward Barry some zoning thoughts that I had as well. And I know we have our hands full today with a couple other things, but very happy to see social equity as well on the agenda today. And Nicole, right? Nicole is here as an economic empowerment applicant on the island too. And as someone who with aspirations to operate on the island, I am eager to see what the town may do in that vein. And with that, I yield my time, and I am here if anyone has any questions as always, or if, anything I can do to help. And thank you, and look forward to this meeting.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. Seeing no one else, let me get on to item 7, which is, are we still good with the day and time of these meetings?
As far as I'm concerned, yes.
Okay. All right. Good. I see head nods, and that's fine. If you're fine, I'm gonna once again table the election of officers. I would love to have a much more robust board, at least with Dorothy and Jacques here. So if that's okay, I would just ask you to assent to my tabling that. Hearing no one say against it. So what's been going on? That brings us to one of the first things on our agenda, which was the Nantucket Community Host Agreement with the Green Lady Dispensary. The town had asked us to review the one that was put in place when the Green Lady first came on board, realizing that their 5-year term is almost up at this point. I thought it was truly up, but I got a message from the town administrator, Libby, that that is not the case at the moment. I was kind of surprised by that. But anyways, I did ask you for some feedback and to be able to modify that agreement in concert with the changes that have been introduced by the Cannabis Control Commission. I got some significant feedback from Joe, which I really appreciated. I did send them a draft version of the markup as to what that would begin to look like as a new agreement set forward. What I will do was I honestly thought that when I had sent that out and it came back to me a few days later, that the host agreement was right at the mark of being able to be talked about. And like I said, the town manager has indicated otherwise to me, and I've asked for a response from her when that is truly, when that mark is happening. Still haven't received a response. That said, one thing I would like to do with you all, which I would have done a few days ago, provided that we were at that juncture, is to be able to send you the marked up version of what that new host agreement will look like. Now, at the moment, I want to just send it to the commissioners who are on the Cannabis Advisory Committee. It is work product. So I'm going to put that out to you right now. It is not in any way, shape, or form ready to even go to draft stage at this point. There's a lot of other input that needs to happen. So when you get it, you're welcome to look at it. If you have any comments or anything, please don't hesitate to feed back to me. Do not group share. Don't send it back to everyone with all on that. I promise as I take care of that, I will let you know what's going on. To further involve some people in the process, I will tell you that when we were first tasked with that update to the host agreement, I did reach out to Nicole at the Green Lady just to see if they had anything. I also made sure I contacted Jericho Melly, who I think you all know by now. He gave me just a few quick comments. I also reached out to Roberto Santamaria on the Board of Health and received no feedback whatsoever. But since they were and in my mind continue to be very integral toward what a host agreement would look like, I wanted to take the lead on that through the Cannabis Advisory Committee to at least see if they had additional information for us. So that's kind of where that's at the moment. I don't know if you have any questions, comments, thoughts on the process. But let me just open it up for a few minutes. See if there's anything that y'all got. Joe?
Do you have any idea when that current agreement expires for the Green Lady?
I honestly don't. And I don't want to put Nicole on the spot here at this point. I thought it was coming up by the end of July. And you know, it's like I said, the town manager sent it back to me and said, nope, we're still not ready to act on it yet. Still under consideration. The time frame is not at the 5-year mark, according to town administration. All right, at least that's the way I read that email. And again, you know, what I'm saying right now to you versus what the reality of the situation is, until I receive further clarification, you know, that's the best I can offer to you. So I am hoping to get a response back to find out when that's due, but they do have a marked up version from us, which Libby said she greatly appreciated that our committee chimed in on this. So that was nice.
I'm surprised because I looked at those dates. I thought this thing was over. Apparently not. There's some conditions in there when you sign the agreement, it's got a date on the agreement. That doesn't mean anything. You got to get into the details and you find out that it becomes effective on some date when everything is signed off by who knows who.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the trap we're in right now.
Yeah, and that was through advisement with our town council. They did have a quick meeting on Monday of this week to at least go through and review any information that was before them and any thoughts they may have had. So I as one member of this committee, I hope you feel good that we actually were invited to the table and were able to chime in on it. And we're just going to have to see where it goes from there, but realize that even no matter what we say or do, it's still got to go before the select board for final approval. I also offered to Libby as well too, that when it does finally go before the select board, we're happy to be there just to add our own information in on things.
Well, I think that agreement got really cleared up a lot. There was a lot of the startup stuff that was in there that had to be dropped because it didn't make any sense today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else have anything for us? All right, so as I promised, I will send that out to you as a work product with those reminders on it, and we'll just patiently wait and see what the next stage is on things. So let me move on. There is a request in starting to work with Libby, which was great. There was a request from town administration to draft the local rules regarding the cannabis industry. So I just want to mention a few things to you at this point, that when the time comes along to do this, as we're looking at drafting those local rules. One thing we should be doing is and has been requested by the town, is to put in a summary of what those impacts will be to the town. In regards to that, I think, you've seen the Green Lady one to get a sense of what that looks like. We need to go back and create a little bit more generic version of that for any other potential cannabis industry related events that'll happen here. The problem right now is the Cannabis Control Commission is still in that review process and has not come to final determination about what those regulations are. We've got drafts of what they are, which are kind of a good foundation, but I said to Libby that we don't want to get too far ahead out of the gate and then have to do a complete rewrite either on this. So I just I'll probably keep this on the agenda just as a constant reminder to keep checking back in on it. And we'll probably just wind up moving past it every time until we finally hear from, the Cannabis Control Commission that their final changes to the regulations have been put through, and then we can move ahead from there. Just realize that with doing this as well too, I will ask town council to work with us as we do that process. It may be a function of 2 meetings with town council, one just to get their input on the overview once that happens, and then let us go to work, get that done, and then have town council do a final review on it to clean up anything they feel may be significant in that process or anything that we may have missed. So let me stop there and just see if you all have any comments on that. Yeah, Joe.
I was hoping that we could get something from Mass on rules that they have for the state, which would be helpful, because then we could just do editing rather than try to go from scratch. The other thought was there are a lot of other neighboring states that also have the same issue, and we probably could get something from them to see what's going on and what we ought to have.
Yeah. I will tell you, as we start that process, this is one of the reasons why I want to have town council up in front of us. The person from town council who deals with this is Nicole Costanza, who's I've dealt with her on a few occasions, not very frequently, but she's incredibly knowledgeable. I know that when things are happening in the state with the Cannabis Control Commission, somehow her name comes up in those conversations. So she seems to be well versed, and I think before we go and just start doing homework, I would want her here in front of us for at least one session to be able to point us toward things that will successfully get us to where we need to be. But as I said, in my opinion right now, to start the process is not a good time, because we may do a lot of work and then find that the Cannabis Control Commission has decided they were in draft phase, but we don't like what we got at all. We're going to do something very different, which means we're going to have to do rewrites based upon it. And I just am not a big favor of tasking people with work that has to be changed back over again. So this is kind of just to get it onto the back burner, let you know what the town is looking for. As I said, I've advised Libby that we're going to throttle back until we see what comes out of the Cannabis Control Commission, and then move ahead from there when we finally get a green light from them. So I don't know if you have any comments or questions above and beyond that. No.
I don't.
Okay. All right. So hopefully that sounds like at least a solid plan for the future, and just know, like I said, that I will keep it on the agenda just to keep it alive. So to get into a more active role at the moment, one other request I have from town administration is to draft a social equity policy for the town. Now, one thing I didn't realize was the Cannabis Control Commission said, oh, that has to be in place by July 1st. Well, a little wake up call for me. But anyways, we are without a social equity policy for the town. There was some dialogue back and forth between town administration and town council, and they did produce a few things that have been floated out there. So when we close out today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you some of those links that are there. A number of different towns have done this. Let me just do one thing here. So one thing that, oh, and by the way, Dan was really nice to send me a few links as well too, and I really appreciate that. That couldn't have been more timely. But again, we were waiting to see what the town all wanted to do in relation to this. But one thing I came across, which I'm going to share with you, is, and I will send this out to you. This was a policy that was developed by Brookline, which I want you to be able to read through. They took it a step further and went before the town to be able to open up more licenses beyond the cap in order to do and open the door for anyone who may be in the social equity sphere that would happen. Now, as for how that works out for Nantucket, I'm not 100% sure, but there is some good information in here that I think that we can cull out to be able to put a policy in place. So I've got the preliminary work for you to begin to look at. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of randomly scrolling around as I'm talking to you here. What they did too very nicely was they put in definitions. They came up with how to prioritize things, which I think is very important in this instance. And they also put, which hindsight I thought about afterwards, and it makes perfect sense to put in a transfer and change in ownership and what some of the procedures were when that was taking place. Just poking around real quickly, one thing that I saw was that and again, this will ultimately wind up dovetailing into the local rules that we're going to do for the cannabis industry here. Some of them, for instance, made it a criteria so that when they were doing the review process, you would score higher in your submission if you were social equity or economic empowerment by the state. So there's a few different thoughts out there. What I want to do is, like I said, I will send this all out to you. Please take a shot at it. It does not have to follow this format. It is one of many formats you'll find out there. You may come across something you really like with that. You know, please let me know if you find something that's like, here we go, here's the answer to all of our problems. Again, I'm just going to ask you I will allow you to kind of share among yourselves, just be a little cautious about where we're going with this. I'd like to try to get this in place within 2 months, so by about September, and be able to run that by town council for a final review, and then be able to present it to the select board, hopefully within a month after that. So somewhere in probably October is where I'm looking at bringing to conclusion with it. Let me stop there and just see if you have any thoughts.
It'll be interesting to see this document because I've sent out along quite a bit of stuff on social equity and the problems associated with that. particularly getting funding from banks to start these businesses. And a
I-
number of states have put in funds to help these folks get started. And it's not inexpensive to start up a business, and it's a very tough business to run, whether anybody knows it or not. And I've run businesses for years. This
Yeah.
one is really difficult.
I'm going to skip to Dawn and then I'll come to Dan afterwards. Dawn, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, this has got to be an industry that's tremendous to break into. And there's already so many things barring businesses on Nantucket. I was wondering, did we pass this by Kamal? And we probably should.
Okay.
I'd love his input on this, since he's our diversity, equity, and inclusion
That's a good idea.
person. Yeah, I mean, I can't read this very well on the screen at the moment. So
That's okay. Especially if you're on your phone.
Yeah.
I am going to send this to you shortly thereafter.
Okay.
You'll see this before the close of the day.
Okay. But you can go to Dan now. That's it.
Yeah, thanks. No, and thank you, Dawn. That's a fantastic idea. I had not even thought about that. So I'll get him on board early to see if he has any thoughts. Dan, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you all, and if I may, through the chair, but
Please.
yes, this is amazing to see, and just on Joe's point on the funding, right? This is a very serendipitous time to start getting all of these things done. There actually is a social equity trust fund on the state level now that will be funded in perpetuity with 15% of all cannabis tax revenue going forward. So it doesn't look like it's going to be available this year, but next year it does sound like these funds will be available. And it sounds like they're going to take form in the way of grants and no interest loans. And it's going to be available exclusively to social equity program participants and I believe economic empowerment applicants. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for sure right now to draft these things. And I will say, Brookline, I'm not familiar with, but I'm familiar with a few municipalities that definitely incentivize folks to give host community agreements to equity applicants. So it's very promising to see that. But yeah, here to answer any questions for sure. But this is amazing to see, and I'm very excited to see what the next few months hold.
Yeah. And thank you. I appreciate it. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the questions I have on the social equity policy is it going to be retroactive to the two places that are already operating? In other words, if it's effective today, is it effective for everybody as of today, or does it go retro on the two current dispensaries we have?
I don't have an answer to that, and it's a good question. I don't have an answer to that in any way, shape, or form. I know that I've got to do some significant reading as well to understand where that's at. I don't know if any of you have come across that in any way, shape, or form. But it's a good question to ask. And I don't know, it may involve, I don't know if it could be an addendum to their contract, or it may involve actually having to renegotiate their contract, which again would be another whole can of worms altogether. But it'll be a good question to ask to town council. So do me a favor, Joe, because I when you work on this a bit, throw that in there.
I will.
As a kind of big note, just so that we don't lose track of that. Anyone else have any comment on this? All right, so there's our homework for the next few months. Again, anything will go at this point. Oh, one thing I did want to say, I'm so sorry, was that I know in one town what they were doing to encourage this as well was waiving fees on certain things that would normally traditionally be part of the agreement. And I would have no idea what appetite the town would have to whether completely waive things, do a percentage of it. So if you're going to attach any economic incentives that come from the town, what I might encourage you to do is just put your thought in at this point, but just say it, it can somewhere in parentheses, just say dependent upon select board decision or something to that ilk. So because the final decision about what that waiver will be or percentage of the waiver is going to be something they'll need to discuss in their own court. But before it gets, I think, to the broader board, we'll have Libby weigh in on that as well. Just so that when it comes time, we kind of know where she wants to go with it in relation to the town. And we'll be able to read the select board a lot better that way. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
One of the issues is that the way it's structured on the island today, 20% of the liquor licenses are the number of dispensaries you can have.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to me like to be the first hurdle that has to be attacked if there are going to be more dispensaries.
And I'm just going to scroll back up for a second. I know some of you can't see this, but one thing Brookline did was to determine that they actually needed to increase the number of licenses to be able to do this, because they already had they've already had some cannabis vendors in place at this point. I think we've bandied this around for a few years without any firm sense of where it was going to go, but this may be something that we should consider as well too. So when you're putting your thoughts out on this, please make sure that you if you think this is important, to be able to change the licensing component, and let's make sure we capture that as well too in the document. So your thoughts will be appreciated. The ultimate decision will lay through the select board. And prior to that, we'll run that both through town council and town administration before it gets to that final thing. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sort of stuck on that whole issue of having two dispensaries. On the one hand, that really sets up a monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, that sets up a monopoly, which is maybe a good thing in one case and a bad thing in the other case.
Yeah.
Not an easy question to answer, I don't think. Because the ultimate would be have at it. As many dispensaries as you want on the island, go get them. Okay. Versus you can only have two, and the two are taken.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dan, and I'll do a little history lesson depending upon where we go here.
Yeah, thank you again. And just through the chair again, and to address your point, Joe, right? I have done some more homework actually on this license cap limit and the mechanisms through 94G section 3 local control that gives municipalities the ability to limit adult use license types. The only way you can limit adult use marijuana retailers, right, is in relation to the 20%, and that's the lowest it can go in relation to the number of package stores in the municipality. With other adult use license types, you can limit to lower of the cap of adult use marijuana retailers, i.e. on Nantucket, you could limit other adult use license types to lower than the 2, right? But from my understanding as well, if you're going to limit any license type to 1, you have to make that good faith argument. So essentially any other license type is limited to 2 right now on the adult use side. With that being said, the mechanism 2 in 94G section 3 local control that gives municipalities the ability to limit in relation to the number of package stores, you can up that 20% limit, right? So you can make it 50%. You could even truncate by license type, right? So I've seen in some municipalities where they have the 20% cap on adult use marijuana retailers, but they have a 50% cap for cultivators, right? And this is still a way to sort of, to my point from last month, right, limit those licenses as they come. But I think for my proposal last month, I think that will do a good job. Really, again, the select board is the beginning and end of all these conversations again. Local control will remain intact, right? Because no operator on the island can begin without receiving that approval from the select board. And I've also floated this to Barry. There is a waiver process for the HCAs, but we will open that can of worms when we get there. But as it stands, right, from my understanding, the only way that you can limit adult use marijuana licenses is that 20% cap related to liquor stores for marijuana retailers. All other license types can be below that, and I yield. I could be wrong, but I believe that is my understanding of it.
Thanks. All right, let me go to Abby and then I'll come to you, Joe.
Thank you. Sorry, I was double.
Not a problem.
But thank you, Dan, for this background. I guess, Joe, you made a really good comment, though. I'm kind of inclined where I would be less inclined to limit it and more allow the option. And then if someone tries the business and then it doesn't work out, at least we can kind of have the thought that we tried it and it didn't work. And at least we would have some way that we've kind of tested the theory as opposed to not even giving the option. Because, I mean, we could test it and, like I said, it might not be successful and that kind of validates our hypothesis. But if we don't even allow the potential, I think that would be possibly like not the best way to go about it. So that was just my thought where you said, Joe, like maybe there is a market, maybe there's not, but at least we can find out one way or the other. So that was just my thought.
Thanks. Go ahead, Joe, you're up.
For some reason, I think I remember that to change the 20% is an annual town meeting decision. Am I wrong? Or is it just plain select board?
All right, so let me go there. If you want, you should probably look at the bylaws of the town, chapter 95, which deals with marijuana. When those were first created, this was when marijuana was first available legally in the state. So it wasn't long between the establishment of the state making it permissible, but then we followed up with our own bylaws, which we were required to do. There was an appetite in the community under which to do it, but people wanted to, I think the general public wanted to go very slowly with this because no one was going to be quite sure what was coming out of it. And as I'm very fond of saying, when the process first started here, even when we're doing the host community agreements, it was really like the Wild West. No one was quite sure what it all meant, what needed to be put in place. And I think the prevailing thought was to be stricter about things than to be more lenient. Being stricter would have made sure that at least something would happen. Now, no one really has revisited this for quite some time. That's at least been about a good 5 years. So do look at chapter 95 of the town bylaws. That'll just help maybe focus a few things that you're looking at in terms of what was required. It's really fun. Actually, I'm glad you're bringing that up because we may have to re-access chapter 95 of the social equity policy too. There's no wrong answer here at the moment, but I think after this time, personally, I think after this time, the industry is well established here on the island. The potential myths have been pretty well dispelled over this time. Nantucket hasn't become the next drug capital of the world yet that I'm aware of. There's not all these social ills that are taking place because of the industry being here. So they're both incredibly good business models that are very successful and contribute back well, I think, to the community. That said, maybe it is time to change it. I think it is. And this may be how we're going to do it. But again, final decision will rest with the select board. As we go through this process as well, too, even if I hear otherwise from town council or town administration, it will be worth, I think, having a public hearing to be able to vet this out a bit and just shake loose anything that may be hanging out there prior to running it through a town meeting. I think doing it, again, you never know what you're going to get at town meeting, but at least the opportunity will have been presented under which to do it. It'll just be a question of whether the appetite is there through the select board under which to do it. Or, again, they could farm it off to us as well too, to hold the public hearing and see where that all takes off to. But again, as you're doing your document, if you do want to entertain this thought in the process of opening up the licensing, do me a favor, just put it in there as well too about a public hearing thing. Unless you feel so strongly against it, please don't put it in, but just let me know why you're thinking that would not be a good plan. All right. Abby, go ahead.
Sorry, you just had me think one thing, and I think you're kind of getting at it at the end, that I think maybe that would be something good to build into it is the education component, because I feel like the more education, and if we make that a part of it, I think that'll probably might be able to answer a lot of questions, head off some of the initial things that people might think of. So, Dan, if you're thinking about that, I would really encourage you to really come up with a good, robust, education plan of how you would make sure people understand exactly what you're looking for.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Perfect. So like I said, I'll endeavor to try to get some of this information out by the end of the day. As you're doing your homework as well, if you come across anything fascinating, please share among the commissioners at this point. Because if nothing else, it may clear some fog from somewhere or get one of us thinking in a different direction that we hadn't even entertained. So this is where a little crosstalk and dialogue by way of email will be really important. And if you're really feeling like there's a burning topic, we can always schedule a special meeting. That's always available to us under which to do it. But there you have it. And if there's nothing else, let me move along. Just check in with my commissioners very quickly to see if there's anything else that we should be focusing or talking about. Dawn, one thing I'll mention to you is Joe has been really good. He's a wizard with this. He has been sending out little things across of what's going on in the cannabis industry across the United States. They're just meant to check the pulse and stimulate some thought at times. If you'd like to, I'm sure he would happy to circle you in on those
Yeah,
communiques.
that would be great.
Okay, so there you go, Joe. You got a new participant. Please. Yeah, go ahead.
And I might say to Dawn, you may be very surprised. A recent email I sent out documented where the cannabis industry in the US lost $4.1 billion last year, which is a surprise to a lot of people. And I've already collected the financial performance of companies in Canada. I was going to hold it until I got the US ones, but every one of those in Canada that has reported lost money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really
Interesting.
fascinating industry because you see this rapid growth and you see these enormous losses. And you just have to say, what is going on?
And the other thing too, which has been fascinating, is how some of the states deal with things like social equity. And from some of the stuff that Joe has sent me and I've seen, it makes your head spin. It's like, oh my God, what are they thinking? New York was, if you want to get into social equity, you have to be a convicted criminal of drug-related offenses. And I might be a little off here, but and then we'll consider you at this point. So to me, that was
And-
like, oh, what are we thinking, God?
And then we're going to send you off to the banker to get a loan.
Oh, yeah.
And-
So
And
go ahead.
that's why one of the recent ones I sent out was in California. They expect 25% of the dispensaries to close in 2023.
So, Don, you've got some good people here who are constantly kind of trying to stay on top of things.
Right. Thank
As
you.
I said to you, if you ever want to just go out for coffee or something to be able to chat about it, happy to do it. But don't be afraid to reach out to the people here.
Okay.
They've all got some incredibly good views on things, and we do like to share that information.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep. All right. Anything else from you all? Going once, going twice. Yeah, Taylor, go ahead, please. Hi. I was hoping you were going to speak up or say something, or we don't bite too badly.
She's muted.
You're muted though.
All right, is it working now?
We lost your video, but you more importantly, we have your audio. There we go. I think we're complete. Go ahead.
There we go. Well, I
Yeah.
just want to introduce myself. I have moved here in December from Asheville, North Carolina with my partner that's born and raised here. And we've taken over her dad's moving company. But in North Carolina, I was executive director of NC Normal, the national organization to reform marijuana laws. And I helped passed the hemp bill there. I own a cannabis cafe in Asheville, North Carolina. So I'm here now kind of trying to find ways to plug in on a legislative sense because that's been my background. So I just wanted to offer you guys, any insight when it comes to doing the infused drinks and things of that nature, but really just wanted to be a support to y'all in any way. I would love to be a part of what you guys are working on.
Great. Well, thank you. We appreciate that and welcome. All right. Anything else? Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. It's always precious, and I appreciate what you're all doing and contributing. Thank you. And on behalf of the town, I'll say thank you for doing that as well. And I will take a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
So
Which
moved.
yeah, Joe, did you have something? I'm sorry. Let me stop.
No, motion to adjourn.
All right, so Dawn made the motion at this point. You beat her. You were a little shy on the clock there, but I'll take that as a second. Abby? To adjourn?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Enjoy your day out there. Take care. Stay safe and be
Bye.
well.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.